Leon Festinger was born on May 8, 1919 in Brooklyn, New York. He, he was an American cognitive psychologist best known for his theory of cognitive dissonance, according to which inconsistency between thoughts or between thoughts and actions leads to discomfort, which motivates changes in thoughts or behaviors. Festinger also made important contributions to the study of group behavior, self-evaluation, and attitude changes. Festinger graduated with a bachelor in psychology from the City College of New York in 1939. He then went on to the University of Iowa, where he studied with the German-born social psychologist Kurt Lewin and obtained his Ph.D. in 1942. 1 year later, he moved to the University of Rochester to work as a statistician for the National Research Council's Committee on the Selection and Training of Aircraft Pilots. He stayed there until the end of World War II. A specific key contribution to this was his theory of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance refers to a situation involving conflicting attitudes, belief, or behaviors. This produces a feeling of mental discomfort, leading to an alteration in one's attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors to reduce the discomfort and restore balance. Festinger's cognitive dissonance theory suggests that we may have an inner drive to hold all of our attitudes and behaviors in harmony and avoid disharmony. This is known as the principle of cognitive consistency. Notice that the dissonance theory does not state that these modes of dissonance reduction will actually work, only that the individuals who are in a state of cognitive dissonance will take steps to reduce the extent of it. The theory has been widely researched in a number of situations to develop the basic idea in moral detail and various factors that have been identified which may be important in attitude changes. Festinger and a fellow psychologist, Carl Smith, investigated if making people perform a dull task would create cognitive dissonance through forced compliance behavior. The method was that in their laboratory experiment, they used 71 male students as participants to perform a series of dull tasks, such as turning pegs on a pegboard for an hour. They were either paid $1 or $20 to tell a waiting participant, a Confederate, that the tasks were really interesting. Almost all participants agreed to walk into the waiting room and persuade the Confederate that the boring experiment would be fun. Results of this experiment were that when the participants were asked to evaluate the experiment, the participants who were paid only $1 rated the tedious task as more fun and enjoyable than the participants who were paid $20 to lie. With that being said, being paid only $1 is not sufficient incentive for lying, and so those who were paid $1 experienced dissonance. They could only overcome that dissonance by coming to believe that the tasks were really interesting and enjoyable. Being paid $20 provides a reason for turning pegs, and therefore no dissonance. The reason for this is because the people who are paid $20 to lie have more of an incentive, rather than the people with $1 than to not lie. The connection between Festinger's theory and my own interest in communication and medias can relate because his theory proved that people would do things with or without incentives depending on the situation. The only way people can get over the dissonance is that if they believe the tasks were enjoyable and fun, like Festinger explained. It trickles into communication because a group of people talked and shared their ideas with one another and being comfortable with one another. In my field, where I can see myself in the future using this theory, is being a coach for a sports team or a social worker. Being able to analyze people and figure out the way they think or move or why they think the way they do can be a big factor in helping me a lot. Using this theory, I can figure out what the root of the problems, the people that I am working with, or the people that I am coaching, and I can help them figure out why they're feeling the way they are, what are the roots of their issues, and how I can help them personally with the knowledge that I have with the theory of cognitive dissonance and how it relates to the human body and how it relates to media and communications. I feel that Leon Festinger aligns with Stuart Hall and Stuart Hall's reception theory. I say this because I feel that Stuart Hall's reception theory and Leon Festinger's cognitive dissonance theory, because it refers to a target group of audience and how they react to a certain amount of information in communication. For example, the reception theory shows how the media produces and codes their text with like lighting, themes, fonts, clothes, the way people portray themselves. They create layers and layers of meaning and hoping to reach a specific group. And they do this in order to target that specific audience no matter which way they can. For example, in the movie Superman, everybody wants to point him out to be the bad guy and how he's destroying the city, but all in the end, he's doing it to save the Earth from a bigger destruction. That is called the dominant reading. Another example is the movie 21 Jump Street. about two kids who go back to high school, undercover cops. Long story short, they have to come back together in the end, to come together for a certain goal and adapt to their surroundings. Then the last example I can use for this theory is potentially the game Call of Duty. This is basically a fake world, and it's a life without limits, but it won't happen in real life, so it makes them feel more comfortable. And that is known as the oppositional reading. A trend in culture that I can apply this theory to is a Gillette commercial regarding toxic masculinity. What they are portraying in the commercial is men watching other men be disrespectful to women and not play their part correctly. Then they proceed to show the complete opposite later on in the commercial, where the men step in and use their voices and their actions to stop the men from being disrespectful towards the women in the commercial. There's a lot of backlash because the target audience seemed like Gillette didn't want any business with masculine men and preferred feminine men in a sense. That is how they interpreted it and came out with an abundance of tweets causing heavy debates on this commercial and this discussion. The main point of this commercial was to show how men need to hold more men accountable in their actions when it comes to being with women, and by also being the best version of themselves that they can be. But I can definitely see how this commercial can be interpreted and how Gillette used this as a platform to create debate and have a lot of talk on the subject. The reception theory plays a huge factor in this because it shows the abundance of people that it affected countrywide and worldwide, causing massive talks on the interpretations of this commercial. Thank you.